warm welcome to this very special webinar brought to you in association with Delivery. And the theme of this webinar is automation and technology to improve service quality and effectiveness in PTL, that is partial truckload transportation. So as the enterprises scale up, they are increasingly focusing on building top-down supply chains with superior interconnectivity to stay competitive and be in tune with evolving customer expectations. With companies stepping up their distribution games, they are seeking new age solutions to drive their PTL transportation and solve challenges like order damages, shorting of orders, lack of shipment tracking, and improve delivery timelines. In order to address customer pain points, tech-enabled logistics players are actively investing in automation and technology to enable PTL transportation on e-commerce timelines. So with this as the backdrop, we are hosting this webinar today. And technology is increasingly playing a very, very crucial role in our businesses and even in our daily lives, isn't it? So it's my pleasure to invite on stage, on this online stage, our esteemed panelists, starting with Mr. Mandar Vaidya, who is the Director of Materials Management at ZF India.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mandar. Welcome to this special webinar.
Pleasure.
Appreciate your participation and look forward to an interesting session. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Abhik Mitra, who is the Chief Customer Experience Officer at Delivery. Welcome, Abhik.
Hi. Hi, good to be here and look forward to the session.
Looking forward to a very interesting discussion now. And next, I would like to invite on stage Amol Lahoti, who is the General Manager and Head of Strategic Sourcing at Gabriel India. And last but not least, I would like to invite Anudeep Garg from continental India to please join us on this webinar. So,
good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, and welcome everyone once again. And to all the attendees who have logged in, a warm welcome to you as well. And over the course of the next, let's say, half an hour to 40 minutes, we'll have this panel discussion. But during that time, I'm sure you will have a lot of questions in your minds. Please do put them in the chat box, and we will address as many of them as possible towards the end of this session. So without further ado, let me kind of ask the first question but before I start asking questions, I would like to request all the panelists to quickly share their initial remarks on the overall theme of the webinar today in not more than, let's say, a minute or so. Starting with you, Abhi, please.
Sorry, I was muted. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I think at Delivery, we've always believed that we are a tech-based player who provides logistics services. And when I use tech, I use it in sort of interchangeably with the whole technology aspect, the automation, and the data analytics. I mean, they're all sort of rolled into this whole one thing. As a tech-enabled player, I mean, we sort of went all in as a tech player from day one when the company was built, with the idea that if you do build a tech-based play using all the components of technology, automation, data analytics, obviously to support the physical movement of goods, you will ultimately be able to provide the best service at the lowest unit cost. And ultimately, that's really what we believe that our customers are looking for. And when I say the customers, we think about customers really in two parts. One is the shipper, and many of whom are on this call as our partners on this. but also their consignees or distributors who are receiving the material, because ultimately they are going to use that to be able to service their customer or maybe sell the product, as the case may be, depending on what the item is. So I think that's been our biggest play. The second thematic for us has been to be an integrated player, integrated across B2B, B2C, and across the 3PL, this thing. So we integrate two types of transportation, which is B2C and B2B, and integrate it with the third-party logistics, which is where the outsourcing of logistics services are happening, which is a trend. And when we talk about trends going forward, I'll spend a little bit of more time. So those are sort of where we come from. So from our perspective today would be to share with the audience why we've done what we have done, what are we going to do more in the same area, but also to understand from our esteemed other panelists who are consumers of our service as to what are their expectations and what do they see the next level of game in a sense.
Well put there. So the customer's perspective. So starting with you, Mandar.
Well, yeah, thank you, Sumantra. ZF is spread all across India with 14 plus manufacturing locations, and we operate through our wholly owned subsidiaries and joint venture partners. So for us, logistics is a critical value creator, from my perspective. And before COVID, I would say, yeah, the thought process was how can we optimize the shipments? And so FTL was a norm. And our products being heavy, we were using FTL quite a lot. However, with the change in perspectives post-COVID, the challenges that customers are posing us, the volume fluctuations which are coming in more and more, I think it's important to also evaluate something which can give us a different balance, because I think the balance is shifting towards getting leaner and more flexible and agile. So if that is going to happen, then we need to evaluate what makes sense. Should we still continue with FTL with its own challenges, or should we look for something else which is giving us a different value perspective, giving different challenges, but then who can solve those challenges in a way? So I think that's what I'm looking for. And good to be on this panel, ready to listen in and share my views, and of course, look forward to a value addition for all of us.
And as you also referred to some of the pre-COVID practices like FTL, for example, we have one of our discussion points is also the traditional challenges and the new age expectation. We'll delve on that a little later. Coming to you, Amol, your quick thoughts on the theme of the webinar.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sumantra. I totally agree with what Mandar said just now, that logistics is more of a value creator now. And why I say so is because we in manufacturing sector have traditionally been focusing on product, but the paradigm shift has already happened. And now it's not only about the product, but it's also about the service that comes along with the product. And in the aspect of that service, logistics plays a very important role in terms of delivering the right product in the right condition to the right customer at the right time. Coming to the agenda of today's discussion, part truckload. So we are already having at least half of our inbound and outbound shipments already in part truckload. And there are a few challenges which get associated with it in terms of the quality of delivery, the lead time involvement, the cost competitiveness, as compared to full truckload where the entire vehicle is yours and the material is directly delivered to the desired location. And I do personally believe that IT, automation, technology are the enablers which are going to make logistics deliver to its fullest value. So happy to be a part of this discussion, and looking forward to learn from all the participants and all the panelists here, because I am participating more from a consumer perspective. As Abhi clearly said, that they are the solution providers, but we are looking here for what kind of solutions are already available for consumers like us to make our life more easier.
Well said there, Amol. You touched upon technology and automation. We will have a little more detailed discussion around that. and how industry players are leveraging technology and automation to drive up efficiencies. But before that, Anudeep, your quick thoughts.
Thank you, Sumantra. I think it's a right topic to be discussed in today's scenario. And Mandar and Amol already set the context with the week. I will say today the SCM for the value chain, entire value chain is very critical for our business at the moment. The reason being because the customer expectation is increasing day by day, right? Their expectations change with the new aging, new generations, right? Now we want a online tracking systems. We want a fast on the delivery, not only the delivery on time, but delivery at our desired place also, right? With the optimum cost, efficient, and Continental, we are not in a B2C business, we are a B2B business, but we are manage the entire supply chain internationally as well as local and deliver a product to our customer, right? In this case, the automations, technologies, fast tracking is very useful to keep our inventory on track, manage our stock level, manage the delivery level, and entire value supply chain. So with this, I think this is the right topic, right discussions point, and looking forward to have a nice discussions with the panelists and a couple of suggestions from the audience too.
Yeah, also, and good to have representatives from global tier ones also, because I'm sure, I mean, in your network, global network, there's so many exchange of best practices from region to region. So I'm sure some of them could be around PTL also. So coming back to you, Mandar, you talked about some of the pre-COVID practices, which perhaps is not so efficient anymore now that times have changed. So what were the key traditional challenges, and what are the expectations in this post-COVID or new age, if I may say that?
I would still stretch my answer a little bit before COVID also, that the road conditions as well as the taxations that we had across states in India was creating a lot of variables, I would say, because the truck or consignment could get stuck at a border check post, and then you don't know when that's going to get cleared. At the same time, the transportation sector was a little bit more disorganized. So the fear, at least in my mind, was if I don't do a FTL, if I do a PTL, will my consignment get transshipped? Will there be some transit losses, damages? And so I would say, and that's what I started off saying, that it was a trade-off, that we optimize and go more towards FTL to take out these variables to the extent possible. So you get a consignment from a border check post, you get it in full or you get zero. However, I think the road conditions have improved a lot. GST has enabled a lot of smooth transportation, and the transportation lead times are getting more and more optimal in a way. So that's a huge enabler. The other enabler that I see also is the ever-changing market expectations, that customers are ready to flex their schedules based on what the end customer wants, because the data is becoming more and more visible. So from that perspective, it's also important for us as tier ones to improve the flexibility in our operations. And if we have to do the flexibility in our operations, we don't have to only work on our internal things. We also will have to look at the value chain that is coming in. And one of the critical dimension of that value chain is how do you get the transshipments, the shipments exactly in time with a predictable nature, and even during transportation, how do you ensure that the visibility is there? So digitalization of the entire process is actually helping us in a way, and that is building more and more confidence to go towards a leaner model compared to the FTL, which was not so lean in a way.
Yeah.
So I think that's how the stage is shifting in a way, I would say. And that allows us to start rethinking whether we should change our model, should we revisit, what needs to be done, who can bring in the requisite. So I think it's a whole lot of complex picture which is getting created.
Amol, coming to you, since you had in your opening remarks, you had touched upon automation and technology also. At your end, now, as a customer or as a manufacturer of components, now how are you leveraging the automation part and leveraging technology to ensure at the end to enhance the overall distribution or sourcing efficiencies? And also, what would be your expectation from the logistics service providers in this new age where everything, the leaner things are, the better it is?
Right. So first of all, coming to your first question. So as Mandar rightly said, considering the customer expectations in terms of the volatile schedules, or in fact, the entire business has become VUCA world, as they call it. So in that scenario, it's more or less important to have a very lean operations, and it's also important to keep on improvising it with enabling it with IT solutions. So we at Gabriel are also working or have already worked on multiple such initiatives, be it end-to-end procurement, P2P solutions, or be it sourcing solutions, category management solutions, so on and so forth. But honestly speaking, to the logistics part of it,
I think the disruption
we still buy or end up one unique solution.
Go ahead, Amol. Go ahead.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, you're now.
Yeah. So in spite of doing all of this IT enablement for our own operations, from the logistics perspective, having 7 plants across the country and then multiple customer locations, we do not have one unique solution which helps us cater to this entire requirement. And even the service providers are more or less stronger in certain routes and weaker in certain another routes. And some are strong in full truckload and some are strong in part truckloads. So there is no one single solution or maybe a few single solution providers or service providers which can help us do that automation piece. And that's where we are being relying on the service providers to have this end-to-end solution, or what we can also call it as a collaborative logistics. Amongst themselves, they can evolve with one particular solution. So it's like the Zomato, right? So you want materials or you want to get a parcel from any of the restaurants. Now you don't want to have multiple apps on your mobile to connect with all the restaurants. One Zomato can help us do that particular requirement. So that is the kind of aspiration I have, or I feel that I have, that multiple logistics service providers across the country with their own strengths and weaknesses in various routes and areas have one app or one particular portal or solution wherein you can connect to the guys who are going to be supporting that role.
Okay.
So that's the kind of IT enablement which may help.
Got it. Coming to you, Anudeep, you're sitting in a plant which manufactures components, very critical safety components, but they're not very voluminous in nature. I mean, they're small components, very compact. So from that perspective, do you think, I mean, with and also the kind of raw material that you get. So with these requirements and for inbound and outbound logistics, do you prefer more of, let's say, a PTL to ensure that there's a faster turnaround time, or how is it?
Okay, the automotive industry, we have a very defined schedules, right? So I will start with the demand planning, right? So we need to have a right kind of forecasting and the demand planning at our end. And then we have all the backward planning when we need a material at our plant, right? And when we need to pick the material from our supply side or our sister plant. Normally, at the moment, if you ask me, the ratio between PTL and FTL is around, we are getting 60 to 70% FTL and 40% PTL. It depends on many factors like the volume economic of scales, the transportations. The second factor is how quick we are getting the materials, how how much inventories we can keep it in our plant. So many factors, right? And the major issues with the PTL at the moment, the binning size, it's not a standard binning size, right? The quality of the delivery, and also sometimes the proper tracking of our particular shipment, right? So this kind of challenges which we are facing at the moment into the PTL. So preferably 60 to 70%, I can say we have a full truckload material, and PTL is around 30 to 40%.
Abhi, coming to you, since I mean, automation and technology are two keywords in our theme of the webinar today. And you also heard, let's say, Amol talking about the requirements, that there are certain gaps, depending on which transport player, logistics player, they are not subscribing the services of. Some are regional specific, and some are stronger in PTL, some are in FTL. So to ensure that I mean, meet these kind of requirements, according to who your customer is, how are you leveraging automation and technology? Because I understand delivery is relying heavily on tech.
Yeah, I think there have been quite a few very interesting sort of themes coming out of the conversations. I heard the Zomato part, what you refer to, this whole FTL versus LTL, the demand forecasting and the volatility. I'll try and answer or at least address some of these issues. See, firstly, I think the way delivery is constructed itself on the business side of it, on the business strategy side, we're the only player in India who has B2C, B2B part load, B2B FTL, and a third-party logistics and an international, which means if you move a shipment through the network, whether it's in any one of these or outside the country into India or from outside, it will move through the same IT system. You'll have the same visibility. There are no handoffs, which are between two separate partners, making it a non-seamless transaction. So that's the first part. We have a full national network, strong pretty much in all regions. We have the densest network in terms of the number of districts we cover. We easily cover the maximum number of standard PIN codes in the country. So I think the answer about being a one-stop shop, which also provides the technology and the automation. Now comes the next level of automation, which is how do you manage your big trucking centers, your hubs, in a sense. Now there, we are the only player, at least in the B2B space today, to have conveyorization of loads, which means your boxes move on conveyors as opposed to being hand moved onto a pallet truck and then move from a pallet truck to a location. Now, what this does is speed, accuracy, weighment, barcoding, location tracking, everything. So I think in many ways, just to go back to, I think, Amol's point of view, in many ways, we are the Zomato of the logistics space, in the sense that we provide all of this, and we are a single one-stop shop for that. I think coming back to the issue about FTL and LTL, I think, which Mandar referred to, I think the conversation, as I see it, is moving, as Mandar himself alluded to, is not just about the fact that I put everything on one truck and I know when the truck will reach, and that will come potentially at a lower cost than part load. But the cost is no longer just the cost of freight. It's the cost of working capital, which is the amount of inventory that you're holding, how quickly you're converting your inventory to sales by actually invoicing it. What is the loss of sale that you're having, or the loss of service that you're having by not actually having this? And I'm sure all the companies that we're talking to here, as they grow their business, are also expanding their distribution network. Right. Now, as you expand your distribution network, there's no way that you can cater to that expanded distribution network using only full truckload. So the only thing is, I think what logistics leaders also have to now come to grapple with is, we are not choosing between the unit freight cost of PTL versus FTL, but you're choosing between the total cost of service delivered for both of them. And if you put all these numbers together, particularly for high value items or high service oriented items, where service has a value attached to it, and where there's fragmented distribution. I mean, 9 times out of 10, PTL will come out as the economic winner to FTL.
Nice.
However, in the past, because many of the PTL players did not have the technology, GST hadn't been introduced, and I think these have been game changers in the last few years, which have completely changed the paradigm in which logistics leaders and managers take decisions going. I think, and that also sort of ties in to, I think, Amol's point about volatility. If you want lean operations, the only way you're going to have lean operations is that what you produce, you deliver quickly and you convert it into cash. And the only way you can do that is through an express part load transportation. Otherwise, you'll be building up inventory here or there. And if you build up inventory even at the level of your distributor, there is unfortunately a cost that he will pay, and that will in turn come back and hit his margin levels. So I think that's a very important part. So I think some very interesting points have come up in this conversation.
Mandar, I mean, since we were also talking about some of the pre-pandemic, post-pandemic practices, what has also happened, including in logistics, because of the pandemic, industry players have discovered how, if I may say, a new set of best practices, which were definitely much very valuable during the pandemic, but has also remained as best practices for good. So in the supply chain management and logistics, are there any examples that you can share from your organization or anywhere else in the ZF Global Network, which has kind of been shared with India also?
Yeah. See, we are a European MNC, right? And we were used to a more stable outlook, kind of stable production and predictable way of doing things. So one big shift that we have done, and so the annual plan, when it was put into place, it was sort of 90% happen the way it is planned. Whereas we have learned it the hard way now, that it's no longer relevant to have an operating plan which is fixed in perspective. The operation plan is more of a guideline, which is sort of our guiding light, that this is the direction we are taking. And then if there are some variations or variables coming into play which were not foreseen when the plan was done, then we have to be flexible. We have to show the agility to still make it happen. And so we are keeping the annual operating plan as a reference, but there is also a monthly sort of a reality check, that are we in the same direction? Do we need to do some modifications, some changes, and then make it happen? Now, again, it's not only technology is an enabler for logistics, it's also an enabler for us, because with the complexity that we have, which is a globally linked supply chain and purchasing organization, it was also essential that we create this visibility in our data analysis and analytics and assessment also, and that we have built in. So I think what you touched upon, and that was also the reason why I'm touching on the pandemic again and again, is that is where we did the stress test, because we were also under stress to make something happen and make a movement, and that has built our confidence that in something new that is working, and then we leave with, or we keep the new, right? So we adopted this flexible way of planning, flexibility in our supply chain process, and we see that it is working, so we keep it. If the pandemic was over in a shorter time, we would have probably gone back to our comfort zone, earlier comfort zone.
Right.
That, it worked for a short time. We don't know if it will work in the long term. So that was a huge sort of enabler to get the change going and persevere with the change.
Okay, right. Anudeep also wanted to check with you when you in the current times where things are, I mean, even from the industry perspective, yes, I mean, you are talking about the automobile industry, it's on the upswing now. but some segments are quite cyclical, and you never know, and the times are also uncertain. No? So in such cases, now how do you plan your transportation or logistic requirements? And also in terms of more importantly, what are the parameters which you under which you kind of choose the logistics partners that you have? And I guess you kind of sign at least midterm contracts with all of them.
Yeah, Sumantra, thanks for asking this question. It's a very important. But one thing I will ensure you, this pandemic, right, help and give us a lot of lessons, right? And one of the best lesson is it help us to be strengthen our forecasting, right? And technology help us to be strengthen our forecasting and the demand planning on the right way. So we have a multiple factor where we are doing the forecasting. It's a customer demand, which they mention in their email. There is a customer demand which they put into the in their systems. There is a customer demand with respect to the interruptions like pandemic, close down, etc., etc. Right? It started from the best forecasting near to the actualization. That is a very, very important parameter to be get a efficient supply chain. So we are using some methodology like artificial intelligence, big data management analysis, which help us to do the right kind of forecasting. Then if you go to the one step out, how we are going to be planning our productions, right, based on that, right, in keeping all this scenario, and then the supply side. Then important is how quick we'll get the material, right, from our supply locations to our locations, either through the third party, either through our own truck mechanisms or some other way. In this case, the tracking mechanisms, right, GPS systems help us a lot to optimize the overall, like which one is the best route if I need to get the material from Bangalore to Gurgaon, right? Real-time tracking systems really help us. Either we can change the route in between, or we will go on the other way, and we can check day to day or time to time tracking on the trucks level, so that we can ensure we will get the material on the right time. If we are not able to get the material on time because of XYZ reason, what is the other options which we have? Either we have some backup solutions, other truck, or some other mechanism. So it helps us to be optimize the overall supply chain in you can say in a continental. And also the global system really help us. I would like to quote one of the good technology. We call it augmented smart glasses, right? Smart glass really help us to do the inventory management or stock level analysis, right, in our warehouse. It's really help us in some of the cases.
Avik, I wanted one question comes to my mind is I mean the logistics industry has been I mean, like many other sectors, have been operating in a particular way, and I may call it the traditional way, for a long time. And now in this age of disruption and innovation, things are changing. The way we do business, the way we do certain things have changed significantly. So how is the logistics industry gearing up to tackle a traditional sector and its challenges?
I think firstly, there is a very large part of the logistics segment which is traditional and still remains to be. But there is a part which is led by the players like delivery, which is far from traditional. It is extremely modern, more modern than most of the large multinationals running these businesses abroad. And that's because you brought in automation, data analytics. Even, for example, the people who unload and load ultimately we have to move boxes, right? Yeah. And the question is, how do you move these boxes in the best way possible without having shortages, without having damages? And that's where you use technology for barcoding. You use an automated route planner, so that what I do is, or how I load a truck is not determined by what I do or 10 other people do. It's determined by the system. So the address system is in the system. the addresses of both origin destinations in the system. So, I think there are unfortunately two worlds in logistics. There is the extremely tech world, and there is a very traditional world. And I think I just wanted to put this out there because we only look at the tech part of it. And I think there are other people in the non-tech side who are also looking at it, because ultimately it will be a question of survival. I think it's also a question of what are the size of investments that you make, because ultimately infrastructure also plays a very large role, and the quality of that infrastructure. Just having a 3 lakh square feet warehouse is not good enough if it doesn't have the right conveyorization or robotics to be able to move things. And in that terms, I think one of our plans, we continue to have the biggest warehouses or hubs in the country or trucking terminals, but we are building one in Bhiwandi right now, which we are doing with Welspun for about 7 lakh square feet. We're doing one in Bangalore. We've got the largest tractor trailer fleet. Now, what does a tractor trailer fleet do? You've seen most of our trucks on the roads. These are the 46 feet trucks. It reduces the unit cost because you're putting much more on a truck. And it also doesn't compromise speed in any way. And you've got visibility across the board. It helps us to deliver ultimately what the customer wants, which is the lowest unit cost and the best service. We also have client-facing or a unified client portal, which allows the client to actually go online and see what typically happens in a business like this is what gets delivered on time and in perfect condition is not a problem. Nobody needs to discuss it. It goes, it gets sold, it gets serviced, whatever. It's the exceptions. Now, typically, classically, how exceptions get managed in this industry is, the logistics manager in a company, probably like ZF, will call the CS person and spot on in delivery will that person will go to the operations person, and it takes a lot of time. So we said, let's turn this up and hand a unified client portal in the hands of the ultimate customer and say, log in your exceptions here, or as exceptions happen in the network, you help us resolve it. So it becomes a real-time resolution of exceptions, which makes ultimately the shipment move much faster between origin to destination and in a better shape. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, for some reason, an invoice is lost. Today, that whole process has to go through phone calls, emails, etc. If somebody in the ZF team, and I'm sorry, I'm just using ZF as an example, is looking at that online real-time thing, says, oh, this shipment which I'm moving through delivery is stuck because of a lost invoice. I will just upload the invoice there and then, and the shipment moves and gets delivered.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's how we are also trying to put technology in the hands of our customers to be able to work faster. I think there was one point that Anudeep mentioned, which I just want to pick up on, which I think, if you ask me, is going to be the next holy grail of this whole situation, the whole play between customers like yourselves, your consignees, and us as your LSPs, is when the marriage of CRM, your CRM, and your SCM, and us happen together. That is when, the demand planning on one side will be driven by what's happening on your customer side. Which type of SKUs are moving, where is it moving, what's not moving fast enough, and that data analytics is going to, and that then comes back to us, so we know what we need to move faster for you, because ultimately we are only your partners in delivering your things.
Amol, as organizations look at getting leaner in all their activities, and also looking at ways to enhance the margins, because at the marketplace, India being a very cost conscious market, not everything can be passed on, and therefore industry players have to leverage other areas to enhance their profitability, for example, or even more before profitably enhance their efficiency, which has a bearing on profitability also. So in your organization, in the supply chain management and logistics, now what are the new levers that you have identified, and new areas that you have identified as opportunities to enhance the overall efficiency? and step up the game.
Yeah, absolutely valid, important point, as you rightly said. So just to connect to it, earlier the organizations used to have a focus that we will do what is our core competence and try to outsource those operations or areas which are not our core competence.
So in your case, you would focus on making the best possible shock absorbers.
Yeah, right. So the focus of organization is to be the best in suspension system. So the operations which are not aligned to that, then obviously you try to outsource that. Now things have started going one level below to the functions, that the functions are supposed to focus on their core competence and outsource the non-validated activities which they feel are not core competence to people who can either add value to it or try to do it in a better efficient way. So coming to your question, the same thing is what we are now trying to do in our sourcing and supply chain organization in Gabriel. We are primarily trying to put more focus on our A class and B class category items in terms of having a sourcing strategy, the right supplier base, the right kind of commercials, the right kind of quality, so on and so forth, and trying to outsource the non-core competence or non-validated or less important activities. So first of it, for example, is indirect material. So earlier we used to have our own set of teams decentralized at all the 7 plants, trying to do day in and day out procurement of indirect material, where you are dealing with thousands of suppliers and with minimal value. Now, last 4 years, we have been working with a spend aggregator who is doing the entire buying of indirect material for us. So from 2,000 suppliers to one supplier who is taking care of the entire indirect. Similarly, we have done that in case of packaging. Rather than having multiple suppliers for packaging, having one supplier where the entire spend gets aggregated. Now, last year, we have taken the next step that even in direct material, we are exploring the partners which are already available in the market who can take care of all the C class items as well. So your core competence remains on A and B and you focus on that. Coming to the logistics aspect, what we are discussing in depth here. So the role of a logistics provider has enhanced much more, in which started about a decade back, but now it's getting more and more deep rooted, that it's not only about transporting material, it's about managing a warehouse for you outside your facility or outside your customer's facility. It's about doing the procurement for you, managing your inventory, managing your store, and then delivering the material to you or to your customers just in time basis. So the whole horizon of the service provider has moved from being just a transporter to providing the full TPL and 4PL kind of services, which takes care of the entire, and then that becomes their core competence. Since they are doing it day in and day out, they have the IT, they have the technology. You don't have to invest in that IT. You don't have to invest in that technology. What you have to do is just outsource it to them at a possible fee.
I think
their experience.
You're not following your audio. Yeah. So you're saying outsourcing is becoming increasingly the norm, and collaborations with specialists. Collaboration with specialists is also helping organizations to enhance their game, the game where they are an expert in. Right. Indeed, I mean, across sectors and definitely in the automotive sector, collaboration is becoming the name of the game, and not only in the core marketplace of automobiles, but also in all associated activities with the business of automobiles. Before now, it's time to move into the Q&A section with the attendees. We have started receiving quite a few questions, but one last question from my side for Abhik is, Abhik, I mean, just could you briefly throw some light on the overall expansion plans of delivery with respect to automation and technology, and how much of it and how will it benefit your clients?
So I spoke about the infrastructure part of it. I mean, that's a continuous thing where we continue to build absolutely the biggest and world-class hubs and trucking centers. We have centralized control towers that control the entire movement and give visibility. We have the data analytics team that is continuously looking at data and suggesting what shipment moving in what form, reaches on time or does not reach, or should we reroute this particular shipment to get it faster. We have the digital address system that we call as AdFix, which nobody else has in this team, in this country, which allows us to be able to deliver perfectly to the end consumer. So this is all continuous, and therefore, and there's usage of artificial intelligence and machine learning in many of the way that we do the network running. And ultimately, the network is far too complex to describe out here when you have 11,000 vehicles moving continuously across the country. But at every point of time, decisions are being made on what is the size of the truck, on which route, at what cost, etc. So all of that is a very dynamic thing. I think we will just continue to invest in deepening the network, reducing the ODA points that we have out of delivery areas, which is known. We already have the lowest number of ODA. We'll continue to increase that. Continue to increase the synergies between a B2B FTL client, a B2B part load client, 3PL client, and have one technology, which we already have, which ties all of this together. So, I think we are all set for what we need to do. Now it's a question of I think one big piece that we do need support from our customers is the ability to, as they look for integrated players like us, we should also be able to integrate into their technology system. When the two technology systems are not integrated, it causes unnecessary friction and a lot of unnecessary manual work, which can be avoided.
Okay, that's also a feedback. I'm sure. All your co-panelists will take and implement wherever possible. One question, we have partly answered that, but in case you want to add something more, this is again for you, Abhik, is what is delivery doing to improve out of delivery area, improving delivery capabilities, more pin codes covered, because it directly affects consignor or consignee commercial.
So I think I did touch upon that in my earlier answer. I think more specifically, actually delivery has the lowest number of ODA location pin codes because of the size of our network. We have more than 3,300 delivery points. Most of the classical B2B competitors will work with around 350, 400. And the reason why we have so much more is because we are routing B2C shipments there also, which are getting delivered. So in a sense, what happens in the classical B2B world is it moves to a hub, it moves to a service center, and then 200 kilometers away, you hand it over to an agent. Whereas in our case, we move from the hub directly to that location because we have the volumes to be able to do so across B2B and B2C. So that will just improve. And as we grow the business, we will have less and less number of ODA locations.
Yes, Amol, you raised your hand. Anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I thought you were about to move to question and answers. So before that, I just had one additional aspect which is coming into picture to place on the table for discussion. Yes. And that is about sustainability.
Indeed.
Sustainability now is catching up across all the organizations. Over last 2 to 3 years, we have seen most of the organizations focusing on sustainability. And one of the key aspects of sustainability is your transportation and your logistics. Your packaging and your logistics. Right? So if from the packaging perspective, the logistics service providers now have to be geared up to see the reverse logistics in terms of moving out of corrugated packaging or paper packaging and having returnable pallets. So to deliver the material and get back the pallets in layman's word. And the second aspect is if there can be a scorecard which the logistics service providers can provide, that because of so and so initiatives, your organization has been able to save so much of carbon credit this year. Why working on these particular logistics services? Then that will be an additional feature or additional requirement which anyways is going to be a norm of the society in the coming years.
So Amol, may I respond to that? I think the point about sustainability, we are working on electric vehicles for on the first mile and the last mile part of it. I think on the mid mile, which is the big line hauls, that is still not an option, but people have looked at biofuels in the past, and probably that will come back. This thing. For some of our large customers, we do provide the amount of fuel we burn, etc., data, so that they can pick that data and put it into their sustainability reports. And we'd be happy to do that with you also. In terms of packaging, I think the issue about delivering on pallets, certainly something we can do. But don't forget that pallets also consume space in the truck, and therefore unit costs will start to change because you will get lower capacity utilization of the truck. I mean, but it's a trade-off between one and the other, and these are the conversations that we can have with you.
And Mandar, would you like to throw some light on this? What the discussion which Amol triggered on sustainability, because sustainability has now become a cornerstone of any organization what it's sold, in any activity that it does, including in supply chain management perhaps, and definitely on the logistics part also.
For sure, because road transportation has a lot of carbon emissions right now, and I'm actually looking forward to what Abhik said, that how do you once you consolidate these small consignments into a big truck or a trailer naturally has a lower carbon footprint compared. If we are saying that we will solve sustainability tomorrow, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
It's not going to happen. It will happen only step by step. And there are multiple angles to it also. As Abhik said, the trailers can be consolidated and then use the last mile connectivity through EVs. Because the small goods carriers most of them are EVs already. So that's moving in the right direction, I think, and that adds to it.
So Mandar, just sorry for interrupting, but our larger tractor trailers are much more fuel efficient than the normal 32 feet multi-axle vehicles.
Absolutely.
By itself, and then if you attribute the fuel burning to the number of units carried, it becomes even better.
Absolutely. No, I fully agree with you. So that's what I was trying to drive at, that it's a multifaceted sort of initiative which will take us towards sustainability. So that was one aspect. Second aspect also is the vehicle stopping somewhere? So as Abhik said, if the invoice is lost now, is it stopping at my gate? That's a waste. Instead, if we are able to get a new invoice and get the vehicle moving again, that's much better, to facilitate utilization of that way. So we'll have to think of those things. And if at some point of time the green fuels, if it comes in, or if hydrogen comes in, we will have to take it on our stride. But that's not a solution which is available today. So we will do what we can do today. And I think what Abhik said makes absolute sense, that you move them in large chunks on the highways and split them into small consignments for the last delivery.
And the last mile and the first mile can become completely EVs.
Absolutely. I fully agree.
I guess on the sticking to automation, Abhik, could you throw some light on how you're leveraging automation in your hubs?
Yeah, so we have the largest trucking terminal automation play in the country by a long way. From the time the shipment when the vehicle docks at the dock, from the time you put it onto a conveyor, it moves onto these carousel conveyors that you've seen, very large ones that you can see globally. And the sortation happens, it comes out and then just gets loaded on, which is something which is quite incredible because it gives accuracy, speed, consistency, your dependence on human beings comes down. You can deal with high peak loads with much less stress on the hub and the terminals. So these are the benefits of all the sort of automation that we are investing in, have invested in. I mean, in Bhiwandi, Tauru, and Bangalore, we have 3 of the biggest automated hubs already, and we are increasing the sizes.
How many are being planned, if you can share?
No, so the question is, we're increasing the sizes of these. These
Sizes
terminals,
of it, okay.
see, typically the PTL industry works with fairly 4 or 5 large hubs, one around Delhi, one around Bombay, one around Bangalore, Chennai, one around Calcutta. So we consistently look to take those and make them better. It's not that the ones in Patiala or Jamshedpur or Kanpur are not getting attention. Once they reach a certain tipping point, they will also get automated.
Okay. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Sumandra. Abhik, may I ask a curious question
Sure.
related to automation?
Sure.
So we're talking of full truckload and we're talking of part truckload. And then if I have to move a shipment from, say, Mumbai to Bangalore, I know that full truckload is going to take so and so lead time. But in terms of part truckload, there is always guesswork in terms of how much time the material is going to be staying in a particular warehouse, or the load aggregation is going to happen, then the material will move. So is there any automation or app or something where I know the average lead time that it will take for my part truckload shipments to move?
Absolutely. I mean, so we provide what is known as a day-defined service, which means we pick it up on day 1, we deliver on day 4, as an example, depending on what the origin destination. For us, it is never a question of, if we pick it up on day 1, it could be day 5, it could be day 8. It's never the case. So we will give you, and if we haven't already, I'll ask the team to connect with your team and give you a schedule of for each origin destination, what is the transit time? And we were measured by those transit times. So you have complete predictability. I think one of the key words, and I'm slightly elevating the conversation here, that I think all of you are looking for from us, is higher levels of predictability in a volatile situation.
Absolutely.
And that is exactly what our network does for you.
So in a way, if I may add a bit, just to put it in my words, sort of, you're talking about integration of a PTL with a GDS.
With the GDS in the sense that,
guaranteed delivery service.
yes, of course, PTL is guaranteed delivery service.
Yeah, but GDS normally was reserved for FTLs.
Well,
in historic times, but you are trying to combine it, saying that, okay, my deliveries are predictable. So
yes, absolutely. The PTL express industry has always been based on a day definite predictable service.
Okay. Yeah.
That's good to know, because when in increasingly uncertain times, when there's a certainty about the delivery period, it gives the consigner the peace of mind. And of course, in times where in the automotive industry especially, where just in time is very core practice, it really helps planning overall schedule, production and whatnot. But gentlemen, I mean, we have reached the end of this very, which is turning out to be an increasingly interesting session. But towards the end, one last word from each one of you, starting with Mandar. Mandar, Andeep, Amol, your expectations from or let's put it this way, what would be your top 3 kind of changes that you would like to see in the logistics part of your operations, and in terms of a logistics partner, what are the things that you would expect to kind of to be offered now to enhance the overall shipment kind of practice?
I actually restricted to only 2 from my perspective. One is visibility, that how do I see where my consignment is today, because that builds my confidence in the system. Yeah. And that allows me to cut further corners as we go along. And second is one single source of truth, which is basically the data integration across all the things, so that what Abhik sees in his dashboard is the same thing I see in my dashboard. Okay, for ZF shipments, not for others, but okay, that's one source of truth is what I would like to say.
Yeah, I would go with visibility, whatever Mandar said, or traceability. That is still one thing where a lot of improvement can be brought in terms of GPS tracking and various other tools, because still it becomes a struggle for organizations like us at times to track down the shipment, and sometimes it goes down to a level of trying to get the driver phone number and then calling him up and to figuring out where you are at this point of time. So that requires a huge improvement as far as our current scenario is concerned in terms of visibility. Secondly, the point that I brought in terms of sustainability. Moving forward, sustainable operations is one of the key that all organizations will be looking up to. So that is the second point that I would like to look at. And as other than visibility and sustainability, in case of, again, I'm coming back to the topic for the discussion, that is park truck load. So park truck load somehow still doesn't give that confidence, that predictability where you have with the full truckload. So that predictability would be the third thing that I would go with.
Your last words, Anudeep.
Yeah, I would like to go the 4 words. The one is the cost. Definitely, if we are getting a good cost in the PTL, definitely we'll work into that. Second is a delivery, schedule on time. And third one is a quality of the shipment. And the fourth one, I would like to add the traceability, right? Online monitoring and so that we can ensure our deliveries on time. So if we meet these 4 CQD and T addition to that, I think this makes sense to go with the PTL.
Abhik, you heard your co-panelists. I'm sure, I mean, most of them, if not all of their what they listed as requirements, perhaps delivery is to a great extent meeting them. But from your perspective, what I would like to know is what would you expect to see from the customer side?
Can I split my answer, if I can give you a couple of minutes in 2 parts? Let me just respond to all the asks that have come from the co-panelists, and then I'll answer your question. I think the one source of truth exists with the unified client panel that delivery has, which also gives online tracking. The same thing that your team will see, I will see, and my team will see. On the sustainability bit, we are working on the electric vehicles. We've got electric vehicles. It will only get expanded. I think our network is fully predictable. For every shipment that moves, we have an expected time of delivery. And the predictability, I think, of LTL, therefore, in the way that you've looked at part load and the way that we run part load today is probably different. And that's a very interesting takeaway from me, because for us, the PTL industry has always been a day definite, predictable delivery schedule. So I would request you to try us in that mode and then see that. I think we are already the lowest unit cost player because of the tractor trailers and the size of our operations. And on-time performance, damages, and quality management is clearly part of it. I think my expectation from co-panelists and their customers, and really customers in general, would be to engage with us at a more strategic level in these type of conversations in our quarterly and monthly business review meetings. It's not just about transactional, I gave you 100 shipments, what got delivered, but what's the next step? Usage of things like the unified client panel. So your technology and our technology is married, allowing us to integrate our operations and technology with yours. And also, I think looking at delivery not only as a transportation partner, but a warehousing and transportation, which is where our end-to-end or 3PL business comes. These would be my sort of key asks or requests from the co-panelists.
One question that catches my attention, I don't want to miss that. Again, Abhik, for you, if you can answer this, it says, sir, what is the main attribute in supply chain resilience in view of the Indian infrastructure, and what are the cybersecurity measures taken as transport and IoT are going to face major challenges. By transport, I mean exchange of GPS and other data between device and central infrastructure.
Indian infrastructure really, in the last 14, 15 years that I've been around in this industry has dramatically improved. I mean, the average truck speeds have gone from something like 27 kilometers to upwards of 45 kilometers, which is why you see so much shifting from air to road. You will see rail coming up at some stage if the government gets its act together as another mode of transportation. So I think the infrastructure piece is already there. I think as delivery, since we have heavily invested in technology as a technology company, we take all the necessary cybersecurity controls. I as yet haven't seen too much of IoT applications per se, but there are applications of other natures like AI, ML, etc., that are running through our operations as we speak.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Abhi, for shedding light on those top points. And thank you very much, all panelists, Mandar Vaidya, Anudeep Garg, Amol Lahoti, and once again, Abhi, thank you very much for really sharing your perspectives. It was very, very informative and insightful discussion with many kind of food for thought. And I'm sure for the as a service provider for delivery, a lot of food for thought, and also as customers, the industry players, namely ZF, Gabriel, and Continental. I'm sure there are a lot of takeaways for you, and I'm pretty sure that going by the kind of Q&A questions that we received, the attendees also found this session very, very useful and valuable. Thank you once again, everyone, for your participation. And again, once again, esteemed panelists, on behalf of ET Auto, I'd like to thank you all and best wishes with all your business endeavors, and looking forward to some more interesting times in the logistics industry and enhanced efficiency all around. Thank you very much on behalf of.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shumantra.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.